Well, here we are. I was having a little technical difficulty, and let's see if I can set... Oh, I cannot rotate my device while live, okay? That'll teach me. Okay, well, howdy do. So it is Wednesday, and my attempt to do my first video in Writing Wednesdays, and this is going to be a short video, so I'm going to take my timer to remind myself not to take too much of your time. And my name is Janet Fitch. I'm the author of White Oleander and of my new book, The Revolution of Marina M., which was written right here, where you're seeing it. These are the books that I used in writing it. And why do I want to teach online? Well, I was somebody who didn't go to writing school. I never did an MFA. I was a history major. I didn't know anything when I started writing. I just knew I wanted to be a writer. And then I started, and I just got bits and pieces here and there. I had no idea what I was doing. And I learned. As I went. So it's... I want to spare people some of the time that it took me to learn to write. One of the good things about having basically learning by bits and pieces and struggling for almost everything that I learned to do is it made me a better teacher, because I understand what people don't understand, because I had to learn it the hard way. And so what I've done is I put out a call for questions. I got many, many questions. You guys have tons and tons of questions about character and dialogue and plot, how to schedule your own life, how to live, how to start, point of view questions, how do you end, and I thought I would start with character. Character is, for me, that's the most important thing about writing, is being in good contact with your character. So, character. Are we backwards? Oh, yes, we are. Oh, well. I got a question: how do novel authors create external conflicts that motivate the main characters to give shape to the plot? Okay, so what this person was asking was, how do you create the external story that motivates your character to move through and bring a story into being? And the secret is that we don't start with the external circumstances. We start with the character. So it's not external conflict that is really very interesting. Knights going sword fighting, or people punching it up or having an argument. That's not what's going to help you as a writer. What helps you as a writer is by setting up the character's internal conflicts. You have to know who your character is, and then those personality traits that make the character, when you put pressure on those traits, which that's our job as the writers, when we put pressure on the character who's constructed in a certain way, we're putting pressure on those traits. And some of those traits are going to help the character get whatever it is they want, and some of those traits are going to stand in their way, just like in real life. So what is it that they need? So some of these things that they have going for them will help them get to their goal. If they're smart, if they have a circle of good friends, or they rely on friends, that they're a good judge of character. Some of them maybe don't hold them in good stead. They're a hothead. They make impulsive decisions. They bite the hand that feeds them. They're inherently rebellious. The constitution of the character makes the plot. You see, say, I need love. If that's my goal, I want to be in a wonderful romantic relationship. I'm your character. If that's my goal, if that's the engine driving me forward, then what are the things that are lovable about me? You know, I'm sympathetic. I'm a good ear. I'm funny. I'm resourceful. Whatever my good points are. And then what makes me unlovable? What is going to be a problem in pursuing my goal? Maybe I'm selfish. Maybe I'm forgetful. Maybe I'm have low self-esteem. I go into oh poor me very easily. I give up easily. I'm thin-skinned, easily hurt. These are the things preventing me from getting what I want. So, and then very important in a protagonist is their strength of will. Will they continue to go for their goal, or do they give up? Now, protagonists need a certain strength of will, that they really need whatever it is they're going for. If you have somebody who just falls over, you're going to have a really hard time pushing that train up the hill. You really want the character to have the engine to pull them up the hill. And what provides the pressure, that's where your decision-making comes in, that the pressure aligns to the character's flaws. The pressure, whatever the external pressure, the external conflict, puts pressure on that character's weakness so that they have to struggle with those flaws to get where they're going. So if, for instance, you have this character who wants to be loved, wants to find the great romance, you put them in a situation, say, where that puts pressure on their selfishness, maybe brings it out. Maybe they lose that person because of their flaw. So you have to put him in a situation where he struggles with his own selfishness. If somebody's afraid of spiders, you put him in a room full of spiders. For instance, often I use movies to teach this because it's like fruit flies. You know, the reason that people scientists use fruit flies in their experiments is not because fruit flies are interesting. They are not interesting. They're cheap. But it's more because they have very large DNA, very large genes. They're very, very easy to see. So movies have very large genes. They're not very complex. So if you have a movie like Alien, you have the protagonist who has all of her good qualities. She's strong and she's loyal and she's this and she's that. No. This is the alert system. No, stop it. Important changes to your account before the next billing cycle. Congratulations on your excellent. Okay, we should be live again. That was somebody wanting to send me insurance. I don't know how to turn the phone off while I'm doing this. Maybe next time. So you have my character Aliens. Okay, Alien. She is the first mate, and she has all these good characteristics, but she is extremely loyal. She's an extremely good first mate. So the pressure that plot puts on her is that she gets to the point where there's no one to tell her what to do. And she has to develop this whole other aspect of her personality to kill the alien. She has to become a leader. So you look at the character traits good and bad.
This
And
is the
then,
alert system with
oh,
Visa
for
MasterCard account services with important changes
what?
to your account before the next billing cycle.
Can you
Congratulations
just
on your
stop
excellent
it?
payment
How
history.
does it?
You now qualify for a 0%
Can I
interest rate
stop
on all your credit card
fucking
accounts.
thing? Okay, so character. So anyway, it's the alignment of character traits with the story that puts pressure on those traits. So that's why they say character is plot. You start with a character and their internal contradictions. You put pressure on those contradictions. And the character has to grow and change. And there's your plot. Other character, let's see how we're doing on time. Other character things you might want to know. Where do characters come from? For me, think of a dream. If you're a Jungian, you know, in the Jungian system, characters or dreams are people in dreams. Everyone in the dream is you. Is an aspect of yourself. So, in your dream, different parts of yourself separate out and then they interact so that you can develop some sort of a harmony inside yourself. That's how dreams work. In fiction, I'll take pieces of myself and separate them out. So say in my new book, I have 3 friends. There's the intellectual, idealist, radical who is kind of cool in tone person. She's a very hard on people around her. She's very certain of herself. She's a very harsh person. She's sort of, if these are the brothers Karamazov, she would be Ivan. She's an ideologue, Varvara. Then there's Marina, my protagonist, who is my romantic self. Very spontaneous, very impulsive. She's radical as well, but she is more. She's warm in tone. She's kind of fiery, but she cares very much about people. And this develops. She has a contradiction then. And she's the poet, she's the dreamer. And then there is her friend Mina, who is the good girl. She's a chemist, she's an academic, who is very much a family girl. And what goes on in the family and what parents think, and this is what's very important to her. Whereas Marina wants to move out into the world. So these girls are aspects of myself. I'm all 3 of them. People asked me in White Oleander, was I Astrid? And it's like, yes, but I'm also Ingrid, or I wouldn't have been able to write her like that. So you get the deepest characters out of the people who carry your traits, that you are them in some respects. And so that's one of the reasons that we write, is to see if you take the different parts of yourself that war with each other. And you make characters, what happens? What happens if you're all of your compassion? You know, in White Oleander, the character of Claire was all of my vulnerability, all of my uncertainty, and caring but very vulnerable. If I took all my vulnerability, what happens? Well, just suicide. So it's not that writing is therapy, but it works in much the same way, the way characters work. And then I guess we have time for one last little bit about character, which I'm asked, how do you write characters of different ethnicities, sexes, and nationalities and cultures? We live in a very diverse world, and we're going to be writing about all kinds of people, not just, our own family of origin. We're going to write about the world. So how do you do that in a multi-ethnic, diverse society? What's important is you have a responsibility to get it right. You have to get it right. Nobody has to write about, just write what write about people exactly like you, for people exactly like you. No, it's the opposite. You write about what you want to write about and the people that people that are very vivid to you, but you have to get it right. If you're going to write about somebody in, say, a different ethnicity, then show somebody who is of that ethnicity and say, did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it right? You're not writing that person for people who have no idea what that culture is. You want to write it for the people in that culture that they will read it and go, yeah, they knew what they're talking about. It's just like writing historically. You've got to get it right. You've got to check. And then the last question I wanted to ask about writing about real people. I want to write about myself and my husband. We're so funny. And I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. Writing about real people is really hard because the fiction starts coming in because the needs of the conflict are often better served by breaking from what actually happened and making things more clear, more vivid. I mean, I find that people who are writing about a real life situation get stuck in the realness of it, and they cannot break from the way it actually happens. It makes it harder rather than easier, even if you know the story. And I think I have one more, which would be talk about antagonists. We've been talking about protagonists. Antagonists don't change. Protagonists change in the course of the book. Antagonists do not change. Antagonists are usually a little stronger than the protagonist. The protagonist has to get stronger to cope. So antagonists are more fun to write because they know what they think. They can be bad. But they are stronger because they don't have anywhere they need to go. They don't have something they dream about and want and have to change to get there. There's some little character tips, and let's try again next Wednesday, and I'll try to figure out how to block the phone calls. So thank you very much. Bye.